You know what people who have an overdeveloped empathic nature tend to do?
Think they aren't empathetic.
Because they've put up walls to cover and shield themselves because their empathic nature is all they have. And so when they put their heart on the
Uh,
line, they put their walls up, and their walls are to guard themselves. And those walls come across sometimes as burnt out, heartless. It doesn't mean that they don't have an empathic nature. It means it's overdeveloped and they've been burned too many times. And to them, vulnerability doesn't feel safe in the environment where it is.
if you're in leadership,
Huh.
you probably can't scroll on social media for like 2 seconds without seeing a post about leadership, talking about soft skills, all of these things, right? Well, you, Joseph Cope, also known as the empathy guy, you know that it's about something much more than that. And I like how you call this fierce empathy, which is really the only way to truly connect in today's kind of like me first culture. And as a national keynote speaker and corporate workshop presenter, you cut through the fluff and show leaders what actually works. You've got 2 decades with the world's most misunderstood population. I find this fascinating. Who are they? American teenagers? Which gives you this real world grip on what connects with people. And now you're showing leaders all around the country how to build teams where people truly see each other, leading to real buy-in and lasting change. Welcome, Joseph Cope, to the show today, where we're going to talk all about empathy.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. Kayla, you and I have done like so much behind the scenes stuff that this feels like I can't wait. Although we do have to schedule our next conversation before too long because
Yeah,
we're not going to cover everything we need to today.
so Joseph and I have talked multiple times in person. I think we're interacting just about every day on LinkedIn now too, because yeah, we're feeling each other. But yeah, we always run out of time. Always,
Mm,
always, always. But I love
mm,
that when I have a connection like this because, you know, sometimes you meet people from LinkedIn or wherever and it's a little tough to have the conversation, but this has just been so organic and so natural.
I feel the same way. I feel like there's there are different ways that people respond to vulnerability, right? And so when you put vulnerability out into social media, that vulnerability reflects back certain pieces within human beings. So certain people respond to it different ways. Some people will call it soft, some people will call it icky, some people will call it, and other people are like, wow, that's so inspirational. I want to be like you someday, Kayla.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who go like the extremes in places where, like, I'm not gonna lie, Kayla, like some of the things that people will say on some of your comments, I'm like ick. Like, why you gotta go there? Like you are not representing this half of humanity very well at all with that little comment. Just that side of me just goes,
There's some bad
uh,
stuff. I know.
yeah. But all that to say, that hasn't detracted from your message, which makes the authenticity of the vulnerability come back again and again and again. And to me, this is why, as somebody who is deeply embedded in empathy, real empathy, authentic empathy, fierce empathy, it somebody who has gone through the work that you have gone through is doing that work to first create space for yourself.
Yeah.
And in the space that you've created for yourself, you are creating authentic space for others outside of the vanity metrics, outside of the followers. Those things are there, but that's not why you're there. You are there to create space for people to see something in themselves that they haven't seen yet. And that is the capacity to see change for themselves.
Mm, I'm getting
That's
chills. Yes.
That's empathy. That when we describe fierce empathy, Kayla, fierce empathy is described as the skill that a leader possesses to create space for another human so that individual can see the value of change for themselves. And that is why, if you're not already following Kayla and you don't already read Kayla's posts, that's why you need to read posts by Kayla and people like Kayla, because you can smell inauthenticity like that. Like the AI gloss that comes in, you
Oh my
smell it
gosh.
really quick, right? And here's to say AI has its role, and I don't know if we're going to get into AI today, but like it has its role and it has its place. But if it can help fine tune pieces of who you are, then great. But it can't do all the work for you because that's not you.
So many gems in what you just said.
Mm,
And thank you, first of all, because this is 100% the work that I'm doing. And I think sometimes it's really difficult for people to understand what I mean by that and
mm,
why. Um, and I do think it is an incredible responsibility when you've built a following and you have people that are reading your words. I think that's something that should be taken very seriously because you do influence people. Whether we like that term influencer or not, it's happening. We influence people through what
mhm.
we say. And it's a responsibility that I carry. I'm honored by that, but you have to first get yourself right and have a North Star that is um like
Yes.
in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and I think one of the reasons that empathy has such a negative rap is because if humans don't do the work first on themselves, all they have to rely on is their empathic nature, which is what you were born with. So humans are born with an empathic nature, and it's a survival mechanism when you are born to connect. It's how you connect as an infant before you had words. It's how you connected with your mother. That's why skin to skin is important, because it's the initial formation of synapses of that empathic nature. It's I'm here for you, not against you. I'm
Mm.
here. And there's lots of reasons why an empathic nature might be overdeveloped or underdeveloped. That's a conversation for another time. But if all you have to rely on is your empathic nature, then if you have an overdeveloped empathic nature, your help comes across as sympathy, not empathy. And it's really, really hard for leaders to look at themselves first and do the work first. But if you don't do that work first, then what you're thinking is help is going to be either sympathy because you have an overdeveloped empathic nature, or it's going to come across as cold, heartless a hole because you have an underdeveloped empathic nature. Which is why when we talk about empathy, I don't just call it fierce empathy, it's the fierce skill of empathy. How
Mm.
can you bring that in as a skill to calibrate wherever your empathic nature falls, whether it's the underdeveloped or the overdeveloped? Let's introduce empathy as a fierce skill into the human ecosystem to calibrate our conversations, to calibrate our connections together, because we're losing it faster than water through a bucket of holes.
Oh my gosh. So first of all, really important point here about overdeveloped and underdeveloped because we're all we're all somewhere on that spectrum, and I would argue that no one has really found that perfect place,
No,
right? I mean,
no.
even if you are the most self-aware, emotionally regulated, there are
Mm-hmm,
still going to be situations and people that trigger you because of situations that
mm-hmm.
have happened in your past, probably. But again, that's another conversation. So that's something really important to remember, that this is a skill that we don't just get a pass or fail. It's like a continual work in progress, which is why your work is so important, to keep putting this education out there for folks to learn. Okay, how can I level up again? What's the
Yeah.
next thing I need to learn? What
Mm,
where am I lacking in this skill? Where could I be better? These are the questions that we need to ask, not like, do I have empathy or not? I was on a coaching call the other day, and that's the person actually said that. They said, I think I need help with empathy. I said, oh, what do you mean by this? And they said, well, I've been told I don't have it, so I'm worried I don't. And I just thought that was so interesting, because the entire conversation that led up to this point sort of revealed that this person had an, what do you call it, an over empathetic,
overdeveloped
overdeveloped.
empathic nature.
Yes. I said, well, I'm pretty sure someone that doesn't have any empathy or care for people probably wouldn't do A, B, C, D, E thing. However, there might be an opportunity for some boundary work,
Mm, mm,
right? For some of these
mm,
other things that we talk about. But I just
mm,
thought that was interesting, where she was like, well, I've been told I don't have it, so I don't.
mm. You know what people who have an overdeveloped empathic nature tend to do?
Think they aren't empathetic.
Because they've put up walls to cover and shield themselves because their empathic nature is all they have. And so when they put their heart on the
Uh,
line, they put their walls up, and their walls are to guard themselves. And those walls come across sometimes as burnt out, heartless. It doesn't mean that they don't have an empathic nature. It means it's overdeveloped and they've been burned too many times. And to them, vulnerability doesn't feel safe in the environment where it is.
that makes so much sense. As you were saying that, I was actually thinking of an example for myself. I am a person who tends on the overdeveloped side
Mhm, mhm,
for numerous reasons. And before I really knew that, I would become angry and upset when I had
mhm,
kind of like over given and it wasn't reciprocated, or your boundaries get crossed and things like that. So I
mhm,
become upset in those moments, which would take a long time to lead up to that, right? Like, I'm not a fly off the handle type of person. But even just a little deviation from what people were normally used to, which is my over giving
uh-huh,
and my
uh-huh,
overdeveloped empathy, even just a little deviation, people would react to that and say, "Oh, you're heartless."
mhm.
And I would think, yeah,
Oh,
and then it stings even deeper, because I'm like,
yeah.
do you know everything I've put up with to this point, and how could, and then that would just further
Oh,
prove their point, like
oh, oh.
things like
Okay, so
that. Hmm.
so here, I'm gonna jump in here. So empathy is not sympathy. So when all you have is your empathic nature, and let's just focus right now on the overdeveloped side of it. The overdeveloped empathic nature wants that connection so deeply, and all they have is their overdeveloped empathic nature. Underneath that, this is what's crazy, Kayla. They actually don't want empathy back. They want sympathy. I want you to think about this. What you just shared, you sounded like a martyr. I'm going to take it all. I'm going to take it all on.
Right?
You don't even know how much I'm doing. It's behind the scenes, and I'm doing it for you because I care about you. And we're going to stay connected. And I'm going to be the one to solve all your problems with my caring, loving heart. And then somebody comes back at you and is like, and you have the one moment where your daughter was crying all night, and you woke up because you've got a migraine from all night, and somebody comes and says, Kayla, can you help me with this, please? And you're like, no, I just can't do it right now. My boundary right now is I'm just really tired. And they're like, geez, what got into you today? And you're like, oh, excuse me? You have no idea in that moment your empathic nature was not enough. You fell into victim. And you know
Yep.
what victims want? sympathy.
Sympathy. Oh, that's so fascinating, but it's spot on. It's spot on. And I think this is a fantastic example that um, because there are the two extremes. And from the outset, they can appear
Oh,
sweet and innocent, right? But actually, for the person, let's say me, it's a level of self-awareness that I didn't have yet, and an ego sort of like protection and because yeah, it's really what it is. It's the ego that wants the sympathy,
yeah.
but
And
it's
you're,
disguised as
oh,
this, I'm so good, I'm so helpful.
uh-huh.
Interesting.
So, and I love that you touched on ego because when we're growing up, our ego learns what makes it feel good, right? Like we realize what makes us feel good. And sometimes it's things that we don't realize. It's all those underlying things. Okay, those underlying things are what I like to call the algorithms of life. Talk about algorithms all the time on LinkedIn. I posted today about the low algorithm
Yeah.
today.
That was so weird.
Now, 9 impressions after
That
six
was
hours. LinkedIn,
bad.
are you kidding? Are you
They were
kidding?
mad at you. LinkedIn was mad at you. We don't know.
But we digress. So that, but just like there's algorithms out there, there were things that were put into us before we had a choice for them to put into us that dictated the algorithms of our life. And one of those algorithms is what strokes my ego. And so, what strokes your ego, which has those basic needs: am I loved? Am I cared for? Am I seen? Am I accepted? Am I enough? All of those core basic needs, however we get those met, are how our ego gets stroked. And so here we are as an adult. And now you're the adult who realizes if I take everybody's problems on, I'll feel good. If I can hold all of my problems together and not let anything out of the vault, people will see me as an amazing leader. And they'll
Yep.
say, you're so well put together. If I check all of the boxes, if I make other people smile, if I just don't cry until I get home into my glass of wine, everybody will see me as the leader. But then it crumbles, right? And
Yep.
even though you, as a leader who had a high empathic nature to start, like that was your baseline. So people see you as Kayla's amazing. She's the best person I've ever worked for. She's incredible. She holds it all together. When I ask her something, she always makes sure that I know the why behind why she says no. If she has to say no, she is just so good to work for. And then boom, it comes apart. And now Kayla has no space for herself to be seen by others. Kayla was
Or
using
by
that,
herself.
or for sure by herself, but
Yeah.
Kayla's not even aware enough at that point to know that she needs anything because remember, her ego has required. So let's fast forward. Okay, fast forward 5, 6, 7 years. Now Kayla has come to the understanding like I have to take care of myself. Here's who I am. Now, the healthy version of Kayla's ego says this, you know, if I'm taking care of you more than I'm taking care of me, I can't take care of you. So taking care of me doesn't feel selfish anymore. Taking care of me is what I know I need to do to create space for you in your challenging moments. So right now, I did have a hard day. My daughter didn't sleep. And it doesn't mean that I don't care about you. I'm just going to need about 15 minutes to get myself together. And then when you come back to me in 15 minutes, I will be someone who can create space for you.
Mm. And this actually goes full circle to what we started this entire call about, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
actually the post that I had today
Yeah.
is all about that realization
Yeah.
of pouring into others and fixing for others and doing all
Yeah.
these things for others doesn't leave a lot of space, if any, to
Uh-uh.
figure your own stuff out. And
Uh-uh.
it comes back to that. I had someone recently on the channel. This episode hasn't gone live yet, but it will. And we were talking about the same thing from a different angle,
Yeah.
but it was the concept of first we have to have self-awareness before we can have others
Mm,
awareness, before we can really build our leadership skills to be
mhm.
what we need them to be. Those are the two pieces that have to come together.
They do.
We won't be great leaders without that.
No. Say those two things one more time. What are the two things?
Self-awareness,
Yeah.
self-awareness, and other awareness,
Mm.
others awareness. Yeah.
So you want to hear something interesting?
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing a book right now, and it's going to have two sections. Both revolve around the cargo model that I coach and speak about when it comes to bringing empathy with intention into the workplace with leaders. So the first section is going to be the cargo model in interpersonal relationships between from human to human. The second section is going to be the cargo model with intrapersonal
Mm.
relationship with myself and all the versions of me. The reason that it has to be that way is because it's really easy to see other people's problems before it is to see ours.
Oh, that's so good.
And when you realize that other people's problems are just a mirror back to the resistance that I feel within myself, other people's problems are just an indicator to me of the algorithms in my life that I'm open to looking at and maybe willing to rewire. But I can't start a book on empathy out about self work. I can't, because empathy at its core is perspective taking. Empathy at, like, one of my good friends, Mimi Nicklin, she's the empathy expert out there. I mean, she calls herself an empathy advocate, and she is unbelievable. Kayla, if you don't follow Mimi, wow, like, unbelievable. She talks about empathy being a perspective taking at its core. And she talks about the core value, the core skill in empathy is your capacity to listen with intention, to listen so deeply that you hear the message underneath the words. So, what I want to do in this space with fierce empathy is, what does it take for you as a leader to be able to create that listening space? The first person you have to listen to deeply is yourself.
And that can be hard to do.
Unless you start seeing that everyone else has a problem, right? It's everyone else's problem. They can't do it. My team can't get us together. The managers under me should be able to fill these out. This paperwork isn't done. That chart isn't completed. This bottom line isn't there. All of that complaining, complaining, complaining. When you realize that every complaint has its source in a need, and the need isn't anything else but what you need. And when you're willing to just see it just for a little bit of what it is, that's a perspective shift that is the portal to growth for you.
So this is making me think in my work experience. I want to bring up two examples because some people may be still thinking, okay, this is great. This is like maybe once I get a little further down the road with my business or with my
Sure.
career, I don't have time. I don't have time for this. So I actually have two examples. They're really interesting examples. My background is in tech startup. I've worked with
Mm-hmm.
a number of founders. Some founders have crashed and burned, and others have achieved that startup dream, right? Now that I've had some space and time from these experiences, I can very, very clearly see what the difference was, aside from fiscal responsibility, but which is a big one and actually kind of feeds into empathy a little bit. Empathy
Mm-hmm.
feeds into that one. So,
Mm-hmm.
two examples that I want to use. One founder I worked for, he was kind of the underdeveloped, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he'd come
Mm-hmm.
in maybe once a week, He would yell at us, tell us what he wanted. It was always different from what was last week, right? We were
Mhm.
always confused. It was
Mhm.
always chaotic. He did not listen
Mhm.
to us. If we tried to speak up, it was a lot of talking over us, kind of a thing. And then he would leave, right? And what happened after he left? People, after a while, people are like, meh, why even bother? Right? This guy doesn't care. He's not listening to us. We have all these concerns that are valid, and he doesn't care. So what
Mhm.
happened one day? The doors were just closed and locked, and we didn't have jobs anymore. Okay. It was that bad. I mean, it was really, really bad.
Kayla.
And so I knew, oh, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I mean, we all kind of knew that this was going to happen. So it wasn't a total shocker, but this was an actual person, and he's now gone on to found other businesses. He's had successful exits. And I'm just thinking, this is interesting. Okay. That's one person. Another person I worked for on the opposite side had very overdeveloped empathy. Okay. He was always there, right? Like always there listening, and not in a micromanaging way, but was like it was sympathy for everyone. So if you have someone that is just always absent, they always have a reason why they can't come in, his response was going to be like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. How can I give you more? How can I help you more?" Which is great to like
Oh,
be supportive of people, but at the same
yeah.
time, so people started to realize they could kind of like walk all over him and use him, and hey, can I get an advance on my paycheck and all these things, like, and he would do it. He would do it,
Oh,
all of it, right? Because I'm a good person. I want to be a giving person, so I'm going to do
mhm.
that. Same situation. The company just did not last. It didn't make it. It didn't make it. And it was
Mhm.
clearly because of this cultural kind of environment that had been created where
Mhm.
people were taking advantage. They just weren't doing what needed to be done. So I want to give you those two examples. And I want to hear your thoughts on that from like a professional standpoint.
Mhm.
A few questions. When we do have leadership like that, what can we do
Mhm.
as employees
Mhm.
to sort of maintain our own sense of responsibility and respect, but also, do we have any obligation to help this leader grow in their
Mhm.
empathy? How would you handle a situation like this? Because so many people find themselves in situations like this.
Mhm. Okay, I want to answer this in two frames. Okay. One from the personal perspective, as the person who's on the receiving end of over or under. And then I also want to address it from the organizational standpoint so that future leaders who realize that they're over or under don't fall into either of those traps. Because
Mhm.
really, both of those are traps. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Death
you're
traps.
because both ended up closing doors and lost out. So let's start with the personal perspective. From the personal perspective, when I define leadership, I'm not defining leadership as the title that you wear. I'm defining leadership as the leader, the human leader in the moment with the most human capital in that moment. So there are times, have you experienced this, Kayla, where you and your daughter are somewhere and your daughter is actually more mature than you?
Yes.
You know what? She is the leader with more human capital than you in that moment. So no matter what your age, no matter what your title, no matter what your paycheck, that doesn't make you the leader. What makes you a leader is your capacity in that moment to create space for another human to see the value of change for themselves. Think about it. So
Oh, that's powerful.
so now somebody might be your boss who has the corner office and they are the ones who are talking over people and you in that moment realizing that his human or her human capital is low in that moment for whatever reason. Honestly, they may have an overdeveloped empathic nature that they've got walls for, or they've got an underdeveloped empathic nature that they asked AI, how do I be empathic with my people? I give into everything. Like you can't label somebody as overdeveloped or underdeveloped unless they label themselves.
Mm.
So let's say this first example, corner office talks over people. You might recognize in that moment in your a moment of awareness, boy, like this is not going over well with the team. I wonder if I'm willing to be courageous enough to have a hard conversation and go into the office, but I'm not going to tell him what he did wrong. I'm not even going to give him sympathy. I'm just going to create space. And he may receive it and he may not.
How do you do that?
But I also have to get into this mindset too. I am not, I'm an adult. An adult is going to change when an adult wants to change. All I'm going to do is have the courage to jump into that conversation. This is not a bad idea. This is not a bad place to introduce the cargo model. Cargo is connect with the person. Just connect at a human level. A is hold myself accountable to my own personal values. The
Okay.
R is identify the resistance within myself first before I look for the resistance in them. The G stands for gain, which is the gain to them. That means we need to discover the currency that has value to them and spend in that currency. And then the O stands for outlook, not outcome, outlook. Just shift the outlook fractionally. So in that moment, boss number one, in scenario number one, you step into his office and you go, man, it sounds like things are not going well. I'm not sure what it is outside. I just wanted to let you know some observations that I had if you're open to them.
Mm.
You see, the bottom line is it seems like we're not hitting our numbers. And it seems like there's something that is not going right. I, I would love to be able to coach some of the people who aren't doing well because my numbers are here. Like I want to, like I'm really hitting my numbers. I feel like I'm doing well. I'd love to coach and support some of the people who aren't doing theirs. If you can share with me some of the things that are really your concerns, I'd love to be on your team together with this. Okay, I want to. We're gonna break down cargo there. Did you see how I connected with him
Mhm.
humanly?
Yeah.
Could you almost feel how I was holding myself accountable to my three values, Kayla, are courage, compassion, and curiosity. Those are my human values by which I live. So in that moment, you could almost feel like I'm stepping in. This is going to be courageous. I'm getting curious about asking these questions, and I'm trying to demonstrate a level of compassion for you and then the resistance within myself first, I felt it, but I walked in, but I'm trying to identify then the resistance within him by speaking to his currency. His currency is the bottom line. It is the numbers at the bottom line. So I let him know we're on the same page. I'm helping you here. I want to let you know, like, these are my numbers. I hit the KPIs. What can we do to work together? What are your concerns with some of the other members of the
Mm.
team? Because we're in this together. And can you see how that shift that has the potential to shift the outlook? Maybe not the outcome, right? But in that moment, if the outlook can be shifted even just fractionally, fractionally, you've created space for that human to see the value of change for himself. It had nothing to do with your things. All you did in that moment was just step into that moment and create space. That's fierce empathy by a human leader.
That's brilliant. It's a fantastic example because of course my first question was like, how do you create, like, what does that mean
Yeah.
to create space? Like, how would someone watching this who undoubtedly is in this situation, how
Yeah.
do you do that? And the way that you laid out that conversation is brilliant because as someone who has worked for a number of
Mhm,
individuals who have these
mhm,
traits, that really is the point you made about speak to that resistance
mm.
within them, like what's going to be the most important thing to them. We have to get to that, but
Yeah.
not at the expense of all the other stuff. It's not just about going in there and like, yeah, I want to hit the numbers too. Like who do we need to get a hold of to do this? Like who needs to be fired? It's not that.
No.
It's not that.
No. No. When I one of the things that I learned from one of my mentors, Larry Thompson, who I've worked with in education for years. He has a similar a 5 step, like a 5 pronged framework. And his middle framework, his equivalent to resistance is the breakdown. Is the breakdown. And he jokes all the time. The breakdown is the middle finger for a reason. So don't come in with the middle finger flying. Like if you come into a conversation with the resistance as the spear tip, resistance breeds resistance.
Mm.
So start your conversation asking yourself, how can I connect with this person humanly? How can I hold myself accountable to my own values? Where am I seeing resistance in myself first before I even think about resistance in them? That gives me the human capital to speak and spend in your currency, which has a gain to you. Because if you are in survival mode, Kayla, who is the one person that you're thinking about?
Me. Yeah.
And so if I, as the human leader in that moment, recognize that you're in survival mode, I'm going to spend in your currency because right now, I, as the leader, recognize it's all about you. And I'm going to do that and create enough space for you to see enough value for change because the reality in this situation is you're the leader. You need to be the adult in the room, not the child. So, how can I give you the space? How can I create the space for you to be the functioning adult again?
That's such a gift.
You know what? No. It's a skill.
I want to call it a gift too. I think that's a
I,
beautiful gift.
I believe that when you present that when you create that space for someone, you've offered them a gift.
You've offered them a gift. Yes. Yes.
They can choose to unwrap it or not.
That's what I was thinking was like it's a gift to that person, whether they
Yes.
realize it or not. Whether
No.
20 years go down the road. This is funny how life works like this, right? Because like
Hmm.
20 years could pass and they could actually remember this conversation and
Yeah.
realize they were influenced by it in some
Yeah.
way, impacted.
Yes.
What a gift that is. We never know
No.
often how that works, but I think that's
Mm-mm.
amazing.
And and here's something to remember too for the listeners that are out there is that perspective shift doesn't happen with just one conversation.
Mhm.
Okay. If you go into a conversation hoping that that conversation is going to change the person, you've just made your empathy driven conversation transactional. And the enemy of empathy is transaction.
You know, I love that because I have a talk that's all about transformation versus
Mm.
transaction.
Ooh.
That's not the name of it, but that's basically the idea behind it. Yeah,
Hmm.
because that transactional stuff, it first of all, you can feel it and it does feel very much like a me kind of, and you're just going back and forth between like who's going to win.
Yes. 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 And remember, the O in the cargo model is not outcome, it's outlook.
So explain that
The,
one again.
the difference between an outcome and an outcome is transactional in that moment. The outlook is just if there's something between right and wrong, what could it be? Outlook is defined as the wisdom between yes and no waiting to emerge.
Hmm. I am thinking about that.
There is always more wisdom to emerge between yes and no, black and white, right and wrong. If you are the leader in that moment with the human capital to recognize it's not me versus you. As a matter of fact, I'm here for you, not against you. We're just creating this space to find out what else could it be
Mm,
somewhere in that space. And it may not be linear. It may be something that we haven't even thought of yet.
right.
We may need to just put a pause in this conversation because non closure is where this conversation needs to be.
Man, I wish I had this this technique about 15 years ago.
Mhm,
Wow, because I wish any of us did because we did not know, no one knew
mhm.
how to communicate with this person. And so it just became such a um, we just don't want to be around this person.
Yeah. It was just, I mean, you fell into flight. If you didn't fall
Yeah.
into fight, you fell into flight.
Yeah.
And when it got so bad, you just fell into freeze.
How do we make this end as quickly as possible so he will
Mm,
just leave? Yes, yell at us, tell,
mm,
do what you that's how it
mm,
felt toward the end there. And I think so many people looked at it closer to the beginning when we were actually trying to figure out ways to communicate with him. It was
mhm,
like, oh no, we need to negotiate with him, which
mm,
felt very transactional. And of
mhm,
course, that didn't work because
mhm,
he always wanted to be the winner in the
mhm,
situation. So it
mhm,
became kind of like a battle and
mhm.
just even further made it difficult to communicate with him. So
Mm. Have you,
this is
yeah.
great.
Have you read Mel Robbins' new book, The Let Them Theory?
They'll let them know I haven't.
Okay, so when you read it, keep the cargo model in mind when you read it, because the brilliance in Mel's book is let them, just let them. They're an adult. They're going to be an adult and they're going to change when they want to change. But while I let them, let me, let me make sure that I'm doing the things that I need to do for me, not to go against you, but just watch me. And as I was reading, I couldn't help but think, I'm going to put this out there and then I'm just going to let them. And if
Mm,
they're ready to change, that's on them. But I can't ask you to change. I can just create space for you to see the value of change for yourself. And until you see the value of change, let them. So I've got a boss who is a talker over. Let them. And while I let them, if it bothers me to the point where I feel like it it crosses company values, it crosses my personal values, I'm going to step into my own values and I'm going to have a hard conversation. And in that hard conversation, I'm not going to start with resistance. I'm going to start with how do I connect? How do I hold
mm,
myself accountable? How do I identify the resistance in myself? What is the currency that has gained to them? And how do I speak in that currency? And can I just shift the outlook fractionally? Because if the out eventually, what we want is for the outcome to change. But if the outcome doesn't change fast enough for us, we get to work on boundaries for ourselves.
yes.
I'm going to let you until I see the value of until you see the value of change. If you don't see the value of change, then you know what? I needed something to change for me to see my own value here. So when I leave this company before getting fired, it's not because this company didn't have value to me. It's just there wasn't enough that aligned with who I am. And I'm not making that decision emotionally. I'm making that decision because again and again and again, I stepped into the skill to create space. That's it. And then you
Ah,
and then you can leave an organization at peace, in
at peace.
alignment, feeling like you legitimately did the work that you could do and you left all of the value that you could that aligned with that organization.
So many things you said there are really important because there are, I mean, I speak with people every single week who are in situations like this at work, one way or the other. They're frustrated. How do I get through to this person? This model is
Yeah.
very helpful. As you said, it's a skill
Mm,
to have these conversations to create space.
mm,
And the more that we can say, okay, I'm working on this skill, like I'm practicing this skill.
yeah.
I'm not coming at this from like trying to control because there is the let them,
No.
which is letting go, really letting
Mhm,
go of what I can't control. So I'm not
Mhm.
coming at it from that place at all. And this is a skill that I'm working on. And whether or not it ends up in a way where that outcome is whatever. I mean, we
Mhm.
just have to let go of that too. It's really not about that. It's not about the outcome. So then we can say if the time comes and it's time for us to depart from
Mhm.
the company and go our separate ways, it's not so much of a hate-filled, anger, angsty, I did all these things,
Mhm.
right? It's more of a, well,
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
is, it just didn't turn out the way that it needed to turn out in order for me to stay here and continue growing. But
And
in the
I,
meantime, I practice
yeah,
my skill. Yeah.
and I do want to acknowledge, Kayla, like you and I are speaking right now, like every human being in the world is like able to be fully conscious and like we're all in our best self and we're super aware and we're gonna know. The reality is this. The reality is we always have a choice. Okay, we always have a choice. The first choice is, can I recognize my own algorithms? That's the first one. The second one is, once I recognize those algorithms, my choice is, am I willing to question my own algorithms?
Mm,
That's the hard one, okay?
it's
Because
hard.
listen, an algorithm means this is my right way of doing things, and somebody else has a right way of doing things. And when two rights come together and they make a big old wrong, if they both stay like I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, that's a toxic workplace just waiting to happen. But if we can just question our own algorithms, not give in, just question our own algorithms. And then from that questioning the algorithm, we just always have a chance to engage at that point in the cargo model. Like, if I'm willing to question my own algorithm, am I also willing to ask, what could I do to connect with this person? And then we lead into it. And then we lead right in. But you have to go to that place of reflection in that moment of just recognizing, gosh,
Yes.
why do I feel like I'm so right?
And also, I'm just thinking about some people where it would be really difficult for me to even get to that C, the connect
Oh,
part, to even want to try to connect, to even want to fake try to connect.
oh,
Like there would be so much pushback on my side where it's like, I just can't stand this person. I don't want to connect with them. Like there is no way I even want to be on the same level
mm-mm,
with them. It's
mm-mm,
that you have to work through.
and think about how much your ego was like, they are so wrong. They are so wrong. Okay. And Kayla, we're talking in the workplace. Like, we're not even talking about personal
Oh
relationships.
gosh. Yeah.
So this is just in the workplace, right? Like, this is just, and so when you come to like these different nuances and these levels of what it takes to engage in fear sympathy. I do we have time? What's our time like, Kayla? Do we have 5 more minutes?
We do. But I was just going to ask you real quick if you had anything to say to add to the example with the person that is like an what is it? Overdeveloped. Or do we use the
Overdeveloped.
same model?
This is no, this is perfect. This is
Okay.
absolutely perfect because the person with the overdeveloped empathic nature doesn't have rules to hang their leadership on. Let's call it this way. They don't have accountability to hang their leadership on. It's just, I'm nice. And because I'm nice, you should know how to follow those rules.
They've literally said that.
Huh? Like, or they'll say things like this, won't you just do it for me? Right? Like,
Uh-huh.
they'll say things like, think about how much I care about you. Can you please just follow the rules? Please just follow the rules. Okay, here's the thing you need to think about with those over empath. Like if you are a leader who has over empathic and you've got a consultant who is there helping you in your leadership capacity, what I would want from my consultant is I would want my consultant to ask me this question: what are the values of your company?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so let's just say the values of our company, sometimes they're like when I worked in education for over 2 decades, the values that we had were the 5 words on the wall that meant a lot: perseverance, respect, integrity, discipline. empathy. Like those are the five things. And you know what? Those are kind of the same in a lot of organizations with adults,
Just, yeah,
right?
same, maybe different
Different,
words. Yep.
different words, same spirit. Okay. So if I've got those five values, here's a way to reframe for those over empathic and underdeveloped and overdeveloped. This is just organizationally as a structure. What if you reframed those values as skills? Let me go deeper. A person doesn't show up for work on time consistently. And let's say the five values in our organization were perseverance, respect, integrity, uh, integrity, we'll call it
Curiosity.
curiosity. Okay. Of those four, perseverance, respect, integrity, and curiosity, which skill is missing when the person doesn't show up on time consistently?
What did you say? Respect?
Perseverance, respect, integrity, and curiosity.
Oh, integrity.
So if integrity is now viewed as a skill, not just a value on the wall, now I, as the leader, have an in to a conversation. Kayla doesn't show up every single day to work on time. She gets there 3 or 4 minutes late every single day. Here's what a cargo conversation might sound like with Kayla. Kayla, it seems like things are tough. I don't want to assume anything. What I have noticed though is we've been getting here about 3 or 4 minutes late every single day. I was really hoping that it would kind of take care of itself. But you know how we strive for integrity. It's one of the things that we preach to all of our customers. If we're going to be preaching it to others, we're just going to do our best to live it out with ourselves. All I've noticed is 3 to 4 minutes late every single day. I'm just wondering what that might look like for you and how you might be able to demonstrate it at a level that feels safe to you. I'm not telling you you're right or wrong. I'm not even telling you we're putting you on a growth chart for this. I'm just saying I noticed. And if we're talking about integrity with our customers, we want to make sure that we're living the same way out. Is that something that's okay? Something that you might be willing to work on? Can you see the difference?
Yeah.
Like now, I'm also realizing this. I'm also realizing this. There's some leaders out there who are going to hear that conversation and they're going to roll their eyes, be like, "Oh, like, are you kidding me? Are you serious?" But think about that conversation over and over and the spirit of that conversation over and over and over and over again. The reason that you're rolling your eyes is because you've never had the conversation.
I was just actually, while you were saying it, I was imagining receiving that as
Hmm.
like myself. And
Hmm.
for me, um, maybe it's just me though, that
Hmm.
would be like a wake-up call. That would
Hmm.
honestly be like
Hmm.
someone's being, I would
Hmm.
receive that in a way where I would do some serious self-reflection.
And here's I also want you to know this, Kayla. You and I have a relationship enough based on our interactions on LinkedIn and our conversations that I know that you're a rule follower. I know that checking boxes means something to your algorithm. It may be something that you're fighting against, but I also know that it makes you feel good when somebody says, "Hey, you're doing a good job." Right? Like you don't work for the gold stars, but when the gold stars come, like it does feel good. Like
Yeah.
it feels good. So even for me to recognize and say, like, "Hey, I'm wondering if things are a little bit difficult. I'm wondering what's causing you to come back. Remember, if we talk about integrity, let's just do our best to live it out. You're one of our best employees. Let's just live out what we're doing." You're going to be like, okay. But what about somebody who's on the other end of it? I would come across a different conversation. It might sound like this. It might, if it was somebody who like was low on the or was on the highly disgruntled and was still showing up late for a day, I might come at it like, I'm just wondering if the job is what you thought it was. I mean, when we hired you, we saw these skills in you. Like we saw that one, you're a hard worker. The things that you could bring to our team were going to be at this level. Sometimes little things in our behavior just demonstrate that the job might not be as fulfilling as we thought it was. I just have noticed that you haven't been here on time for the last week or so. Is everything okay with the job description? Is everything the way that you thought it was going to be? I just want to hear your side. I'm not even going to jump on you for it. I just want to hear your side of what's going on. Tell me what's up.
That's really
Difference,
good. Yeah.
difference, right? Like it was a different currency that I was spending in. But could you hear me try to connect? You heard me try to hold myself accountable to that curiosity piece within me. And then I started to feel resistance within myself. And then I'm trying to speak to that resistance, but speak in your currency.
The other thing that's really good about this is that you aren't asking them. You are
Mhm,
asking them to help
mhm,
you understand. Because so
mhm,
often I hear these conversations, witness these conversations, and it's like,
mm,
we're telling people, right? It's either
mm.
one extreme or the other. It's like, you're late, you're going to get fired if you keep being late. Or maybe on the other end, it's like, hey, I've heard this. I have heard this before. Hey, you've been late. What if we open 15 minutes later than usual? Would that help you with your situation?
So we're going to change the whole organization because one person doesn't have the
Because
skill of
yeah,
integrity.
yep.
Oh, so when we dig deep into this organizationally, this is a reframe. Okay, think about this in the HR space, right? Think about this from the place of people who are in HR who have to hold down compliance. But if you hold down compliance from a place of thou must, you shall, you're asking for resistance. But if you could ask yourself, what is the value skill that this individual is missing? And how can I create space for them to see the value of change for themselves and give them the opportunity to tell me what that looks like after some reflection time? Oh, that's powerful. That's
Mhm.
powerful. Kayla, I have a question for you. What would you say is the number one variable for human behaviors to have a chance to be long lasting? What's the number one variable for human behavior to change, for that behavior to change and have a chance at being long lasting?
The number one variable. So something like consistency or
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
consistency.
It's not bad.
Um, practice. I mean, you have to practice it.
You do, you do. But what would inspire you to practice it? Because even if a boss came to you and said, "Hey, Kayla, you're low on integrity. Practice that skill," would you? Are you inspired to practice it? I mean, maybe
I don't.
you because you're maybe you because of your algorithms, right?
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
think about somebody else. They're like, "Kayla, get your together and would you grow some integrity? Practice that."
Okay. I'd be like, yeah,
Mm,
whatever.
mhm.
So this is a really good question. I'm like, maybe, I mean, we have to want it. There has to be a
Oh,
desire for it.
there it is. There it is. Why do New Year's resolutions fail? Because we make New Year's resolutions because it's New Year's, not
We feel
necessarily
like we
because
have
we
to,
want,
and everybody
because we
else is
have to.
doing
And
it. And
yes, Daniel Pink in his book Drive says that the number, and he doesn't call it a variable, but he talks about human motivation. Human motivation, first and foremost, is driven by what he calls autonomy. And when you can create space for someone to see the value of change for themselves, you have given them the gift of autonomy. And when they can choose for themselves, then you start to see behavior shifts and they start to see the value of that change for themselves. And that elicits what are called mastery moments. And those mastery moments are when they see it for themselves and they share it back with you. So I'm the worker and I'm coming back to Kayla and I don't say, "Hey, Kayla, I showed up 6 times in a row on time." I might come to Kayla like 2 minutes before I'm supposed to be there. I just might go, "Hey, Kayla, hey, here's a Starbucks for you. I appreciate you." And then you're thinking, "Thanks for the Starbucks." Wait, what time? It's
oh my
2 minutes.
gosh.
That's a mastery moment. Okay, mastery moments when those accumulate issue in something called purpose. And I think I've
Mm.
shared this definition with you. But I came across this definition of purpose from one of my mentors. Her name is Gab Bochet. She and her husband, Brian, run a company called The Purpose Company. They've written a book, and in the book, they define purpose. Now, this is my take on their definition, but the take is purpose is the best of what you've been given to give to others.
Mm. You did share that
What
with me before. I freaking love that. The
what if
best.
you worked, what if you were the leader with enough human capital in your organization to be the person who created space again and again and again for people to choose the value of change for themselves? What if you were the leader who was the initiator of mastery moments again and again and again and again? What if people left your company and had nothing but good things to say to you because they said, Kayla was the one who helped me see the best of who I am to give to others? That is
I
an organization that I want to work for.
Yeah, I'm like so inspired right now because first of all, I realize I have so much to work on. I have so many opportunities to practice this skill, which is uh, like I'm very inspired, Joseph. I am because I haven't really thought of it in this way before, and it has been very difficult to have conversations like this. But, and usually I'm not usually a big framework kind of a person, but this made total sense. This just makes sense. It's like, how do you communicate is really what you just kind of gave us.
Mm,
These are difficult conversations. That was the other thing I was thinking about as we were role playing these conversations was I felt a little uncomfortable with, oh my goodness, this is me too. I would feel uncomfortable having this conversation about being late. I would.
mhm,
That's
mhm,
just not a fun conversation to have. But to open it up the way that you did and to connect and to really listen, that was on the other side of it, was like, we're kind of framing it before we get to the place where we are listening to the person and what they have
mm,
to say. Because there's that whole second side of the conversation that has to happen. And that is out of our control.
mm, mm. When we do part two of this conversation, Kayla, I think it would be fascinating to dig into the control side because our ego is so bent on control.
Yeah.
And until we look at those algorithms, we don't even know it, but we're trying so hard to control the outcome. And when
Yes.
you have a conversation that is trying to control the outcome, empathy has gone out the window. It's turned into manipulation.
Yep.
It's turned into coercion. It's turned into power over, not power to, as Amy Cuddy would say. It's power over. Empathy is the skill to have power to choose change for yourself. And the control piece is huge. It's so deep within us.
It
But
is.
we don't see it until we start to see it in others first.
I didn't think I had any sort of controlling nature in me until I actually started paying attention.
Mm,
But that whole
mhm,
example we gave in the beginning is a person that wants to control. They
mhm,
they want to control. They want to be the nice person so that everyone else will
mm,
do what they want them to do, right?
mm,
And that's just not the answer. The other thing the conclusion I came to is really what I want to do is go into each conversation equipped with the tools that I need because my goal is to just do the best I can at every conversation. So if I can walk away from that conversation, even if it ended in the employee getting really mad and yelling at me and saying, "Well, I quit," and they're very angry, at least I can walk away and say, I did the best I could with that
mhm,
conversation. I feel good
mhm,
about what I did here. Now, what did I learn?
mhm,
Maybe it was just the other person was very angry, and that's okay. But that's what I want to do, is walk away from each conversation feeling good that I did my best.
Mm. When you, Kayla, if you go back and just finish a conversation, a hard conversation, and just ask yourself these 5 questions. Was I really able to connect? Did I hold myself accountable to my own values? Did I really identify the resistance within myself? Did I speak to their gain, or was there something in me that was still speaking to my gain? Was I looking for an outcome, or was I okay with just shifting the outlook? Those 5 reflective questions at the end of every conversation will give you a chance to improve this skill the next time. Because this is a skill, which means we have to practice. And when we practice, we make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we can choose to be defeated or we can choose to lean in. And if I choose to lean in, I'm just going to ask myself, and if I realize that I tried the last time and that person left really mad and frustrated, and I realized it's because I wasn't speaking in your currency, I now may have the courage to re-engage in the conversation. And I might say, Kayla, that didn't finish the way that I was really thinking, but I was reflecting last night and I realized I was speaking with my intentions, not yours. I really want to hear your side of what's making this so difficult, because I feel like we're on the same page. We're just in different paragraphs.
This is beautiful. Thank you. And I know
Thank you.
I know we're going to have a part two because there's more. There's
Mm,
always more. But before we go, which we have to go, oh my gosh, it's happening. Before we go, I would love it if you could share a little bit more about where people can find you.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. So I'm a keynote speaker and a corporate empathy workshop provider. The best way to get a hold of me is to connect with me on LinkedIn and interact with my posts. Um, I am a big proponent of human connection, first and foremost. If you're interested in me and who I do, I have a website. It's called empathyguy.com. It's really easy to remember. You'll see me in action. Um, and if you're an organization out there who just is looking for leadership strategies that give your leadership team the capacity to create this space and even the willingness to lean into this as a skill, those are the organizations that I love to work with. So I'm going to be speaking at HR Southwest coming up here in October as one of the speakers, which is going to be really exciting. And I've got a couple of big speaking engagements that are coming up here where if you're interested in hearing me speak, reach out. I'd love to hear more.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I'm going to link up all of your details in the video description too, so people can find you through the video
Yeah,
description. But thank you so much, Joseph. We will see each other again for part two. And thanks for joining us today.
it, it was a pleasure, Kayla. I can't wait to do it again.